You are either on the side of truth or you're on the side of the lie. You are either on the side of light or you're on the side of darkness. If you're on the side of darkness presently and are sick and tired of it and want to do something about it, then there's a hope for you. Then there's a possibility for you. I said a possibility. Don't you sit there and tell me that you choose light and then you miss meetings or you go out of here and never come back. That means you're a liar. That means you have chosen the darkness of your own mind to live in permanently. So you'll just get scareder and scareder as you grow older and older. And this is what you've chosen for yourself. Don't you think that you can compromise with the truth as you've compromised with everything else throughout your life? Compromise is a very common practice out there in the social world, in the world of business, of money, of family disputes or whatever. Don't you think you can carry that attitude of giving up just a little and then get something in return? It won't work. In this pursuit of truth, it is all or nothing. This is why in this class, if you don't want to go all the way, if you don't want to work hard, then you will eliminate yourself from the class, which suits my personal preferences exactly. Because I don't want any of you here who want to sit and try to lie. You wouldn't last long anyway. All right. During the week, as I go about doing things, many thoughts come to mind. Sometimes they come so fast and bubbly I can't get them down in time, or I have to be doing something else, and two or three come and they go. But I get as many down as I can, so I'd like to read some of them to you tonight. You might want to write them down. If not, you can look at the slips later if you want. First, you'll recognize this one, the source of it. Spiritual encouragement occurs when the king assures the wavering prince that he is right after all and the criminal is wrong after all. Isn't that nice? Mm-hmm. Spiritual encouragement occurs when the king assures the wavering prince that he is right after all and the criminal is wrong after all. You felt certain things to be right, sometimes perhaps in this class. You felt it was right, but the prince is weak and young and wavery. Then maybe Alan or Stella or Joe or somebody will say something, some truth, and he'll say it in just the way that hits you right, and the prince is rightly encouraged. The truth that was in him, but he was a little bit wavering. And the criminal was wrong after all. Deep down in your heart of hearts, you know that one of the rules of this class, just selecting one, you know that vulgarity and crudeness and being foul-mouthed is wrong, don't you? Yes. Right. Don't you? Yes. You go out in that world and your best friend uses foul language, you know it's wrong, don't you? Then why do people go along with it? Simply because they're afraid to do what is right, to say what is right. You won't be one of the gang. Try not being one of the gang sometime. Take this home. The next one. Everything I need to know for self-rescue can be known. Anything I cannot know, it is not necessary for me to know. Self-rescue is all that matters, and all knowledge for attaining it is open to my receptivity. About 2 bricks off your back on that one? Let's try it again. See, you ask all these questions. What's going to happen to me in the future? How can I take care of that dreadful mistake I made 10, 20 years ago? How can I correct the mistake I may make tomorrow? Listen to this. Everything I need to know for self-rescue can be known. Everything I cannot know, it is not necessary for me to know. What's on the other side of Mars, who knows or cares? Self-rescue is all that matters, and all knowledge for attaining it is open to my receptivity. Self-rescue is all that matters, and the knowledge and the insight by which that comes is available to me as I become receptive to the light, as I choose the light. Now, are you ever going to worry again about whether you're able to find what you authentically need, or is it settled once and for all on this March evening? It should be settled once and for all. But of course, you want to go into self-tormenting questions, but then your face twists up a little. Will you stop it? Come off the stage, sit back and relax, and remember, everything I need to know for self-rescue can be known. Anything I cannot know, it is not necessary for me to know. Self-rescue is all that matters, and all knowledge for attaining it is open to my receptivity. I noticed an incident with one of the members of this group the other day. I won't mention the name, but this individual inspired the following 2 sentences. You cannot earn your way out. You cannot earn your way out. You cannot give anything to get out. You can only give things up. You cannot earn your way out. You cannot give anything to get out. You can only give things up. Good works. There's another sentence that connects with that. False good works. Here it is. Now let's see if you don't sigh a little bit with a bit of relief and understanding when you hear this one. It'll save you from so much false morality, false goodness, which means you're trying to buy your ticket into heaven, which is not possible. Real slow on this one now. When you do better than you are, the doing is burdensome. When you do better than you are, the doing is burdensome. Clear? Yes. No? Yes. Well, we had about 50-50. Write the following down. Get this one down. A question does not become legitimate just because someone asks it. A question does not become legitimate just because someone asks it. And let me now get a little closer to home on this. Have any of you been asked questions right in this class, either on Sunday or any other time, and you resented the question? You felt that it intruded into your private life, maybe, and you wish that they hadn't asked that question? The next time that happens, don't you dare answer the question. Just because they ask it does not make it necessary or legitimate for you to answer it. And I want you, now don't use this as a dumb little gimmick to get a false feeling of strength out of it. But if someone from now on, and Sunday or any place else in this world, asks you a question that you don't want to answer for any reason, any legitimate reason at all, you tell them, I prefer not to answer that. You are intruding into my private life. That happened last Sunday. You ever had someone demand, why did you do that? Angrily, and notice how defensive you got. Now you searched around for an answer. Why don't you say, why did you ask that? Oh, here's another answer I wrote down. If someone asks you a question you don't want to answer for a good reason, you could say, my answer to your question is to ask you to have the courage and the honesty to investigate your question. My answer to your question is to ask you to have the courage and the honesty to investigate your question. Then you can watch the expression on their face, which will go blank, because one, they weren't expecting that. Two, they don't know how to answer it. And don't you stand there and be superior because you're the wise guy who stumped them. The purpose is not to stump them, but to maintain your own integrity, which you must always, always do. The wolves are hungry for the sheep all the time, right in this class. And the wolves are very clever, are they not, in putting on the sheep's clothing and learning to bleat? Sheep don't have long teeth, I guess. Take a minute break.
Hi, how are you? Yeah.
To review a bit, these are sort of odds and ends notes that build up over the week. Next sentence. The social reformer is one of the most evil of all men, for he seeks to get rich from poverty. The social reformer is one of the most evil of all men, for he seeks to get rich from poverty. Show me a social reformer and I'll show you a super sickie who despises the people he claims he wants to help. Black, white, or any other color. You admire the psychos, huh? You put up statues to them. All right, I wrote a letter to the world. Here's my letter to the world. I think I'll read it twice, because it may not penetrate the first time. What, Ron?
We're fine.
This consists of just 2 sentences. Dear world, betrayal of my trust in you is loyalty to me. Please betray me at least twice today. Sincerely, Vernon Howard. Dear world, betrayal of my trust in you is loyalty to me. Please betray me at least twice today. How many did not understand that? How many did understand it? And I'll keep your hand up so I can ask you to explain it. Al.
I think it simply means that we have to depend on ourselves. We can't depend on the world, and therefore the world being undependable, we have to trust ourselves. So the betrayal is the proof that we ourselves have to depend on ourselves, on our true nature.
Oh, sure. All right, Joe.
The more we get betrayed, the more we're able to see our illusions.
Ah, yes. Ah, yes.
There's something that just came to me that seems to be very subtle in that, and that is having the courage to ask for the betrayal, which affirms the courage.
Do you know, when you pray to be betrayed, it becomes impossible? I see so many blank faces tonight. If you're afraid of betrayal, that is what creates it. Pray for betrayal and you'll destroy it. I see hands.
Vernon, would you read that again?
Yes, I will. I'll even start with Dear World.
Yeah.
Betrayal of my trust in you is loyalty to me, to who I really am. All right? Betrayal of my trust in you is loyal to me, to me. Please betray me at least twice today. Tom had your hand in.
I see that the way it affected me, the way you said affected me, the way it registered had to do with courage.
Courage.
Having a lot more courage to go into this.
The only way you're going to find out that the world can't hurt you is to let it hurt you. You're not going to let the world hurt you. You're going to protect yourself from getting hurt. You're going to attack the world first, try to weaken its blow against you. Why don't you let the world win over you? Why don't you let anybody behave any way they want toward you and see what happens? What will happen is that the word betrayal will lose all its meaning to you. To even say the word betrayal arouses associations in your mind, because we have all been, quote mark, betrayed in the past, haven't we? By other people, by circumstances, by our own nature. Go ahead, Duffy.
And then we don't need the comforting of trust anymore once that is totally destroyed.
That's right. Who are you trusting? In oneness, that is where you are one with yourself. Where does the idea of trust occur? If I am trusting something, there has to be something outside of me, right? Well, what is this something outside of me that I'm trusting? If it's outside of me, it's a false trust. I want my wife to be loyal. I want my boss to promote me as he promoted the other people. I want life to be generally good to me, according to my definition of what a good life is. And you had better pray that that is betrayed as soon as possible. Go ahead, Phyllis.
It seems to me that we're talking about expectations that we have from others. Every time we expect something and it doesn't come about, we feel betrayed. In actuality, it should knock down all the illusions of expectations that we have from other people and reliance on the inner self.
All right, how many of you have ever had expectations that some of your friends and relatives would join you in this and want to go along with it? Mm-hmm. Or friends or anyone, you know? All right, let me tell you a little story. You are in a boat going down the raging rapids of the river, and you have a book in your hand, and this book gives you instructions on how to get out of the rapids, because you've heard that there's a fork in the river down there, and if you learn how to navigate the boat right, you'll be able to steer it over toward where the fork goes to the right, and then the river is peaceful and unobstructed for the rest of the journey, which you can then enjoy. You can enjoy your traveling, enjoy the delights of the trip down the river. But just now you're in this boat and buffeted around by the waves and missing rocks and half-hitting rocks and scared. But you were trying to command the boat so that eventually you'll be able to get it to the point where you're not in danger anymore. All right? And you look over, and there are dozens of other boats all around you going down the same rapids. One person in each boat. There's your father in one boat, your mother in another, your children, one child there, another child over there. There's your wife over there, there's your husband over there, there's your friends over there. And you look over there, and there's a book in their boat too. You can see the same instructions on how to get out of the rapids and get in this peaceful branch of the river. But they're all laying down in the boat sound asleep. Just asleep in the boat. So you yell at them, scream loud, wake up, look where you're going, look what's happening to you, but they don't hear you. They just stay asleep. You begin to understand then that your responsibility is not for them, but for yourself. So you continue to work and read the book and navigate, and you're getting it a little bit. But then a funny thing happens. As you're working and you look over and see your friends and all these other boats, all of a sudden you see the most astonishing thing. Every once in a while, each of them in turn stands up in the boat, looks around at the rapids and the rocks and the fog ahead, and screams and hollers and shakes his fist in anger at where he or she is. And after exhausting themselves with their anger and fear, they lay down and go to sleep again. You yell again, they don't hear you. Even when they're standing up and cursing the rapids, you try to yell. How can they hear you when they're screaming at the top of their voice? And so they keep going down, and you finally see there's nothing you can do for them. It's difficult enough to learn for yourself, isn't it? Instead of wasting your energy trying to talk to people who want nothing to do with the instructions you're trying to give them. So you get sensible and you do learn how to steer the boat. And you do find that peaceful fork of the river where you can begin to enjoy life. And as you branch off to the right, there they go, still asleep in the boat there, not wanting to listen to anything but their own screams periodically. So what are you going to do? You're going to do nothing. That is the way it is. And if you think anything else, you're deluding yourself. You're living an illusion. You're trying to comfort yourself. And if you think that, you won't know that you are one of these people asleep in your own individual boat, standing up just long enough to curse your situation and wear yourself out, and then lie down and go to sleep again using the book of instructions which you have as a pillow. Now, how stupid are human beings, including ourselves maybe, for many, many years of our lives. It's about time we aroused ourselves and see that we have the book right next to us. All right, we can discuss or ask questions if you like for another 5 minutes, then we'll have a break. Yes, Jim.
Person hearing what, for the first time, what you said about betrayal of my trust in you, in the world, as being true to who I really am, is kind of an affront against God, because they say, well, if you don't have faith or trust in mankind or the world, then where are you?
Do you see the order of progression? Yes, good. Do you see the order of progression that we have to go? Here's what I'm getting at. Unless I begin to see that I am a wolf, I won't see that you're a wolf. But once I begin to see that I am a wolf, I see that you are. Is that going to be intelligent for me to trust a wolf? See, trust your fellow human being. Love everybody. All right, you go out in the hills here and love a pack of rabid coyotes, if that's your level of intelligence. But you don't know that because a rabid coyote doesn't know that the others are the same thing. He's calling himself a nice, pleasant creature. And if you're lying to yourself about how nice you are, you're not going to make it. You're going to just die a liar. That's what's going to happen to you. You're going to die a liar all your life. That isn't quite the right phrase, is it? You're going to die a liar. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Isn't it just the criminal that can be betrayed?
Pardon?
Isn't it just the criminal that can be betrayed?
Yes, of course. Yes. The criminal can only betray and be betrayed. Betrayal is on the lower level. And when we rise above that level, all ideas about betrayal vanish. I want you for my friend. You don't want to be my friend anymore, and I feel betrayed by you. What feels betrayed? My comfortable habit system of having you around as a wife or husband or friend or whatever. That is what was betrayed. But if I see that, if I understand that and don't identify with the mere comfortable habit of having you around, then the idea of betrayal vanish? Of course it does. How can you betray someone who is not there, who is not home? You can only betray my idea that I must have you for my happiness. You know, we're getting smart when we see that other people are not the source of our happiness at all, but the source of our misery, which is our fault, because we thought they could give us something perpetually over the years, and all they've done is help keep us asleep. But it's still my own fault for clinging to that friendship in preference to getting up in that boat and seeing where I am and beginning to read the book and beginning to turn the rudder properly. Please slow down. I will if you will. Do you know that when you get your feelings hurt over anything, that you are calling yourself betrayed, and you harden the hoax? You harden the hoax that there is someone there to be betrayed? I saw a hand. Murray, I guess.
No.
No, I'm sorry. Oh, Joe.
And a good exercise would be to find somebody who would ignore you.
It'll happen all the time.
I was going to say it's not hard.
I'm beginning to notice that it's very difficult to really say what you think. That the image always jumps in and you just go into this confusion or state or something, and then maybe several days later you'll come to, maybe sometimes you don't, most of them I don't see, but that I never, there's something in me,
You
there's
mean
fear.
you're saying substitute things instead of the proper thing, perhaps? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Not
Something
coming
different.
right to the point, for example?
Or, let me make it more direct if I possibly can.
Go
Like,
ahead.
I'm so afraid of offending someone.
You know why? Because you're afraid of their anger,
Right.
their wrath. You're very sensitive, Murray, more than you know. I'm talking to you now.
I know.
You know?
I mean, I see a little bit of it.
Yes. And your manner is a protection against getting hurt. Who could hurt lovable Murray?
I just raised my hand to see what would happen.
Well, what happened?
I was testing your wrath.
Gordon, Frank.
Related to what Murray said, there seems to always be a motive behind even saying something.
Okay. Or saying it in a certain manner.
Yes. What we call trust is really our own laziness. We don't want to be, our own laziness.
Trust, did you say?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
We don't want to take responsibility for ourselves.
Yes.
And if I may go a little further, the person that says, trust me, he's a thief.
Yes. Right. Only the truth can say that. And you will know when it is talking, when you have a little bit of it in yourself and not before. That was good. This so-called trust and laziness are very close together. What could you lose that would make you... No, let me rephrase that. What could you lose that you presently feel would hurt you if you lost it or him or her? What? What? Just slow down now. Just keep that much. Why don't you lose it now by mental, emotional, psychic detachment, so that you can see that instead of something bad happening to you, something good will happen to you, which will be the dissolution of the fear of losing him, her, it. Would that be good? Isn't that good work? Isn't that part of steering the boat toward the calm branch of the river? You had your hand up, I think, so.
You said, you asked what could I lose, and the only thing I could think of was you, with respect to being our only source of truth instruction.
All right. If you mean the truth itself, that is the only legitimate one, but you shouldn't fear that. Isn't fear of the wrong attitude? Can't you be, let's use common words, can't you be eager for this truth without fearing that you might not get it? Don't you know that fear of not getting is blocking your getting it? But if any of you mean that you have found a source of truth, good. And it's about time for all of us. Just about time. You know, look, you're such cowards. You're such cowards. You're going to plan to come to this meeting, and those sick, hard, foul-mouthed friends of yours phone and say we need 2 more people for bridge, as they always do. And you don't have 1/10 of 1 ounce of courage to say, no, I'm going out something that's more interest to me than bridge. No, well, you look, you cowardly men, you look at your wife instead of saying, do you think, you low down cowardly men, don't you look at your wife again. You pick up that phone and say, no, we can't make it, we have something else to do. And then do that next week and next week till they stop calling and start hating you. Great. You're such miserable cowards, all of you. All right, it is break time, 10 or 12 minutes. Yeah, suppose you're at home sleeping one night, tired and weary, and you hear a crash somewhere in the house, but you're too tired to get up and investigate, so you just doze on. The next morning you get up and there's the broken window. Someone broke your window in the night. You didn't know it till the morning. So you fix the window up and go to bed the next night and hear another crash. You're still tired, you don't want to exert yourself, so you don't get up. Next morning you get up, another broken window. You're beginning to feel a little persecuted. Someone's coming around your house at night and breaking windows. So a few days later, Saturday afternoon, you're sitting watching the football game on television. You hear a odd sound out toward the front of the house, splashing of some kind, but oh, that football game's really interesting. You don't want to tear yourself away from it to go investigate. So you watch the end of the football game. Finally, when you go out the front door, you find someone has taken a bucket of red paint and thrown it all over your front porch and door and windows. So you're going to get pretty angry now. Someone is coming around messing up your house. So you get the water and the rags and clean up the mess and repaint it. And next night, another sound. You don't get up. Next morning you go out and someone has trampled down the shrubbery and pounded on the wall and put broken several boards and all that. You're getting tired of fixing up your house from vandals. So from now on, you're going to sit up and watch who's coming around and breaking down your house. So one day, instead of watching television, you sit by a window back toward the back of the house, and while you're sitting there watching, you hear a crash at the front of the house. So you race around and you just catch a figure of someone running off. But he's gone. Well, at least you've caught a glimpse of whoever's wrecking your house. So you fix the window up. You determine to watch the front of the house. When you watch the front the next day, he breaks the window in the back. I mean, you're getting furious. What kind of going on? What kind of a world is this? Where a vandal can come around and wreck your house and you can't even catch him. So this time you're so mad you're just going to watch 24 hours of the day. So one night, midnight, you're watching around, you see somebody walking down the street and he has a hammer in his hand and rocks. And you rush out and you grab him by the arm and he drops all his equipment. And your first shock is that when you grab this man, who was obviously coming to wreck your house, that he doesn't resist. He just stands there and good evening. You can't figure that out, but at least you've caught the vandal. So you haul him in, you put a half Nelson on him and get him into the house. And he doesn't care. You got him in there, get him in the house, and you turn on all the lights, and you said, I'm going to call the police. And he said, sure, call the police. This bothers you a little bit. This isn't the way a wrecker is supposed to operate. But so what are you going to do? You caught the man, unless you caught the man who's wrecking your house. So you dial the police, pretty soon the policeman comes over in his nice big uniform, pressed trousers and all that, looking big and all. He comes in and you tell him, finally, after all these weeks, I've caught the man who's been vandalizing my house. Haul him off to jail, please. So the policeman listens to your story and looks around. And the man is standing there chewing gum, looking so casual, as if he doesn't care at all. He's been caught, he's been arrested. And so finally you ask him, there's one thing about this that puzzles me. You don't seem to care whether you get caught or not. And the man says, I don't care. And everyone looks, all three of you look a little bit puzzled. And all of a sudden, the vandal looks at you kind of puzzled, and he says, what's wrong with you? And you say, what's wrong with me? You're the man who's been wrecking my house, and you stand there calmly and ask what's wrong with me. And he said, you don't remember? You don't remember that you hired me to wreck your house? He said, this officer, the man must be insane. He's saying, I hired him to wreck my house. Haul him off, please. Get him out of here. I can't take it. He's making me nervous the way he's talking, the way he's behaving. But the policeman, he's wondering what's going on too. He's never run into anything like this in 15 years on the force. So the vandal says, only one thing to do. So he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a legal piece of paper and he says, I, Tom Jones, hire Bill Smith to come around every 3 days and wreck my house. And it's signed by you. I mean, the shock is, that's my, I don't get it, officer, that's my signature. It has to be a forgery, isn't it? No, it's no forgery, sir. Look, I'll show you the check you gave me. I haven't cashed it yet. I've got the check you gave me, your personal check you gave me. So the policeman says, if you hired the man to wreck your house, what can I do about that? This is your responsibility. Obviously, it's a very legal form, notarized and everything. So the vandal goes off, and you stagger, the policeman goes out, shaking his head, and you stagger back to your bed, wondering what on earth is the matter with you. But you did You did learn something from the experience. You found out how to stop wrecking your own house and blaming it on someone else. You were the cause of it. Let me read a sentence. Write this down, please. I wrote this down to get it exact. Connect the wreck outside with a wreck inside. Connect the wreck outside with a wreck inside. Do you think you could do that a little bit? All right, I'll ask you a question when you've written that down. Real honest now. How many of you worry a lot? How many of you worry? You'll lie if I don't say it. How many of you worry? How many of you are nervous over the future? How many of you are ashamed of the way you treated other people? How many of you don't know whether that's going to continue or not? Doubtful about whether you can control yourself in the future. How many of you could be generally described as a wreck? Huh? One way or another? How many of you don't know what you're doing with yourself in this life? Everybody raise your hand. Oh, we finally got you all. How many of you want to remain self-wreckers while blaming society? You had better investigate and see if this is still your dominating attitude. It can still be your dominating attitude, but you can begin to be suspicious that maybe you unconsciously signed a contract with a dark part of you to come around and wreck your life house every once in a while, because nobody is doing it but you. This is such a simple and yet dreadful truth that most human beings will never see it. Do you think people want to be told that they're responsible for their own condition? Who do you know? Who do you know, including yourself, that can take criticism, even justified criticism, rightly as a means to self-correction? It isn't easy, is it? We didn't say it was easy. What we do ask is, are we willing to do it? As bad as it hurts. Don't you know that it was a great shock to that man when the evidence was held right in front of him? There was his own signature. There was his own check paying this man to come around and wreck his house. Why? Why would a man do that? To carry the illustration a little better. Well, the vandal said to the man, the reason you said you wanted to hire me is because your life was dull. And you wanted something exciting to happen. You wanted something mysterious. You wanted something that happened on the outside so you could feel persecuted. I vow to you that 99% of the people in this world, if they didn't have their persecutions, they would die of boredom. If they didn't have something to gripe about, someone to hate, someone to blame, if they couldn't create an enemy of some kind, just as this man created his own enemy in order to feel persecuted, to give him some excitement. I'll tell you something. If you want a purely exciting life, then just keep going the way you're going until you're totally insane. That will be a very, very exciting and very distracting life, to be totally insane. Now you'll have something to do with yourself. You'll be able to dream that you're Madame du Barry or Napoleon. Now you'll have an identity. Yes, go ahead and change it. Did you want to? When you follow another liar down the raging river, you understand that you're just following yourself, that you're in the same psychological position that he is. And you will be delighted to follow him, because he may yell out at you when he stands up in the boat every once in a while that he's going in the true way. Follow me and all will be well. And even when he wrecks himself on the rocks, doesn't that suggest something to you? Or do you stupidly feel sorry for your friends when they wreck themselves on the rocks? Because that's part of your image of being compassionate, of being kind, of being understanding. Don't you dare shed one little tear for your friend who has wrecked himself on the rocks. You don't know it. You don't know it, but he's got a rope in his boat. And if he could lasso out and catch your boat, he'd drag you down with him if he could do it. You'd better keep your eyes open for people who are throwing their ropes out to catch your boat. People who get wrecked on the rocks despise you as they despise their own life. This includes your husband, ladies. This includes your wife, gentlemen. This includes your parents, children. This includes your children, parents. Your darling children. They're not very darling. They don't care 2 cents for you any more than you care for them. You can't care for them. You're too much of a wreck to care for anything. You don't even know what it means to care anyway. One way to care for other people is to have nothing to do with them. As long as you have something to do with them, you still think you can help them, and you wreck them. You give them what you are. As long as you associate with them, you're under the delusion you can do something for them, and that illusion will help wreck them. You've already done enough damage. Why don't you stay away from people? Why don't you stay away from people so you stop being so vicious to them? For their sake, they might have a chance if it wasn't for you. For your lying and your trickiness and your viciousness. If you want to wreck yourself, go ahead. But of course, there's no way you can avoid wrecking your wife or your husband if you've determined to wreck yourself. There's no way. That level must express itself to other people in your life. Under pretenses of caring, under pretenses of let's hold hands, dear, against the truth which is trying to hurt us. The devil says that, and if you say that, then you are a devil. I mean it. This is what the devil is, you or me, if I behave that way, which I don't. All right, questions, comments? Keep your questions short and to the point, please. Yes, Duffy.
The statements you just made are so tremendous that I can barely grasp it.
You sense the rightness, though, don't you?
Very much so.
Ah, that's good.
I could see just plain as day I made those contracts,
Make that clear, Chuck.
on self-destruction, especially in early 20s.
Right, okay. We don't have to rush ahead with questions. We're not under a compulsion to go bang, bang, bang in here. Aren't we content to sit quietly here and enjoy who we really are without being frantic about collecting knowledge? You get more knowledge just by sitting here quietly, watching everything that's going on outside and inside. Watching your resistances to what you've heard tonight, for example, and knowing and understanding that those resistances are your worst enemy, not your friend, as they will lie to you and tell you all your resistances are liars and you listen to them, to your dismay, if you could only see it, to your grief, to your sorrow, if you could only see it. You've kidded yourself, ladies, you've kidded yourself, gentlemen, long enough. It is now time to grow up. It is time to stop playing childish games with your social friends, with your relatives. It's time to stop playing childish games and begin to grow up, to mature. This is your only chance for becoming authentically happy. You're not happy now. How can you be happy when you're scared? How can you be happy when you don't know what life is all about or what you are all about or where you're going? Your idea of happiness is to keep an excitement in some way going on in your mind, body, feelings. Keep it filled with something so that you won't have to look and see the horror of your life as it is. That's your idea of happiness, and that is what is betraying you. Time to grow up. I see little children here who don't want to grow up, because as long as you don't grow up, you can look at someone else and ask them to do the work, ask them to think for you. You can tell them all your troubles, like you were able to do when you're a 6-year-old girl or a 6-year-old boy. That's legitimate for them. You're not 6 anymore. God has ordained that as you grow physically and by age, that you also take on added responsibilities for yourself. When you're 6 years old, it's fine to ask questions. It's fine to ask Mama and Papa and teacher what to do. But you're not 6 anymore. Please don't evade the responsibilities that you have as a grown-up man or a woman. It's only by taking them and seeking as many more as you can, as fast as you can, that you're going to throw the bricks off your back. And every time you succeed in taking an adult spiritual responsibility, every time you do that, a larger one, thank heaven, will be given to you. The minute the first one disappears, another one will appear, and it will be larger. Aren't you glad? Because every time you take that increasingly larger responsibility, you grow more. You become authentically strong. You become strong from yourself. You become wise from yourself. Not from your name, not from your label, not from your intellect, but from your real nature. So when you get to a certain point, your happiness in life consists of going as fast as you can to get a larger responsibility over here or over there. Take the small one, take the medium-sized one, and the next size one. Take it and do it, work with it, get it done, get it out of the way so you can go on to the big one, because the bigger one is the bigger reward. The higher reward, the true reward. And you will feel that reward. You will be it. You will live it. And there'll be no separation from you and your reward. You will be your reward. Who you are. You're on.
I'd like to go back to the statement that you made to me a while ago. Is what you're saying to me that the division in me is the role that I played because I'm so afraid to say and to do what I think, and that when the fear comes up, that if I'd walked directly into the fear by saying or doing what I really feel like saying or doing, that's walking into the loaded muzzle that we talked
Okay.
about at the top of
All right.
of the hill. Is that what you're saying to me?
Oh, all right, but let me handle that by asking you a question. Are you pretty much afraid of offending people, maybe in this room?
Sure.
You're afraid of offending me, for example?
Right.
Joan, maybe,
Right.
Juan, or anybody like that?
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Now connect that with what you just said. Walk right in the middle of it, which does not mean we're rude, we're bad-mannered. That doesn't mean that at all. See, who are you trying to protect? Murray, find out who he isn't, and then see if you want to protect what you assume is Murray anymore. You won't want to. Who you think is Murray is keeping you tense and scared, or Stella, or Alan, or Joe, or Al.
I'd like to ask another specific question. Let's say in a given situation, I see that somebody is whipping me. Okay? And I feel resentment in that. I don't like it. But normally what I would do in that situation would be nothing. Or just stay whipped.
All right. Are you going to end there?
Well, of course, and what I would like to do is something totally different. You know, I'd like to say, that's enough, knock it off.
Well, we've covered this so many times. Let's see if I can say it from a new viewpoint. You feel whipped by life, right? Now, please, who's getting whipped? Well, I am getting whipped. Tell me who you are. You can't do it. There's no way you can do it. All you can do is stumble and fumble and sputter. Well, me, I'm getting whipped. Who on earth are you talking about? You can't tell me. I know you can't, because there's no you there to get whipped. What's getting whipped is your ideas about yourself, your delusions about yourself, your self-pictures, your self-images about yourself, and they are being threatened. Let them be. How many times have I told you, go right out, the figure of speech, go right on the out in the battlefield. No armor, no gun, no sword. Just walk on out there in the middle of the battlefield. 10,000 enemy soldiers shooting machine guns, rifles, throwing bombs, hand grenade bombs, artillery at you. Find out what happens to you. Find out what happens to you. The next time you are criticized, you're out on a little tiny battlefield. That's all you can take. You can't take 10,000 soldiers. You can barely take one woman in the army now out there. Next time you're criticized, stand there and enjoy it. You know? Just have fun being who you really are. And who you really are always has fun. I mean, you don't even know who he's talking to. Who are you talking to? He thinks he's talking to you. You're not there. Just a minute, Tom, please. Go ahead, Tom.
I've gotten myself into situations by willfully going into the situation. I've gotten myself to where I was shaking so bad I bit off more than I could chew. You've told us to go, to enter the battle as consciously as we can.
Sure.
Yeah, so it left kind of a bad taste in my mouth.
Oh, yeah, look. Yeah, look. If you were hiding out 20 miles behind the front lines, there is the perfect opportunity to be a liar, a hypocrite, and a coward. Anybody can do that. You can invent all kind of lies and daydreams. How about if you were up on the battlefield there with 10,000 soldiers shooting at you, that you wouldn't be afraid. You'd be brave. You wouldn't be a coward. You'd be right up there. Our purpose is to deliberately enter the battlefield to see what liars we are. And if you will stay there, just stay and be a liar, stay right in the middle of that, walk right in the battlefield, no gun of your own. You can't have a gun of your own. That would create an enemy. It would create an opposite. You mustn't shoot at the enemy. You go unarmed up there so that there's only shooting toward you. Because you can begin to understand that. As long as you're shooting toward him, you think that you are shooting, therefore you have an enemy. If you stand there unarmed, you can begin to see clearly exactly what is going on. But most of all, you see that you have been a liar all your life. And now, I'll ask you a question. Can you take the shock to your vanity of seeing what a cowardly little liar you've been? Anybody can stay way back there and talk about God or talk about bravery. You get up there and expose yourself to all those enemy soldiers, and first you'll see what a liar you've been all your life. But that is not the main thing that happens. What happens afterward is that you see that they have no power at all to hurt you as long as you're right in the middle of it. They can hurt you as long as you're 20 miles back claiming that you're a brave soldier. That is the lie. When you get up there, nothing bad can happen to you, only good. The battlefield will disappear in front of your eyes. All the enemy soldiers will disappear, because once you've dropped your gun, eventually their guns will drop too. They both have to happen, the opposites. But all this has to come through your own experience, and then you'll understand. And then you'll say the very same thing I said, and you'll say them according to your true individuality, and you'll explain it in your own words. And I will know that you and I are talking about the very same thing.
This is a completely new idea to me, to go out into the world without any defenses. You know,
without any what?
defenses.
Oh, yes. What are you defending, see? Richard? You've been defending Richard all your young life, and it's been pretty miserable, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. You want to try something else?
Yes.
Okay. No defensive weapons and no offensive weapons. No shield and no gun. Rifle. Ron.
So if I'm feeling anguished and I hate being whipped, I know at that instant that nothing bad is happening to anything that's real in me.
It's not happening to anything that's real. It's happening to all the invaders that have taken you over.
Right.
This is happening, no doubt about that, but it's an unnecessary happening. All pain is an unnecessary event. It's real. We're not going to lie about pain, for heaven's sake. We're saying that it's unnecessary. But not as long as you're in love with pain. If you love to suffer, then you just go out and suffer for the rest of your life. You can have all you want. The world will cooperate with you in laying it on you. And you have asked for it. Go ahead, Rob.
I've heard this concept, of course. You've been teaching this ever since the class begun. And that one little aspect that we talked about with Murray, this is that one time that I caught it in a different way than I ever have before.
It's clearer. Mm-hmm. That's the way it goes.
And if I hadn't come tonight,
that's right.
I might have had to wait another year or so.
That's right. Don't you miss a single class, any of you, where you can possibly be here. Just a minute, please. Do you know what a state of sin is? be unconscious, to not know, to be lying in the boat with the instruction book as your pillow. That's what sin is. Go ahead. Who was that, please? Frank.
Yes, in connection to, someone mentioned about they're afraid that the class won't continue.
Afraid the classes won't continue?
Won't continue,
Yeah.
or perhaps you'll die or something like that. We think that we designed our course up to this point, and we're afraid that we can't continue it on into the future, and that seems to be where the fear is at.
Mm-hmm.
We don't believe that all of this has come from somewhere else.
All right. In your present stage, none of you are able to do anything but walk with other people. In this are going as fast as we can. Are you going as fast as you can? I'll ask you that. So that you can begin, listen, so that you can begin to walk through life all alone, without a class if necessary, with the class if there is one here, so that you're not afraid of anything that happens, because you've got it here. You've got the kingdom of heaven right here. Be diligent students to hasten that day, which means to be obedient students, which means to be as sincere as you can so that you can increase it tomorrow, which means you don't miss classes, which means to you new people especially that you don't go out of here and let the rightness that you sense in this room be stolen from you by a very, very dark and evil world. And your best friends are your worst enemies. But you don't know this yet. You're too dumb. You're too stupid. You're stupid. You're too stupid to know that. Oh, don't go Bill. I've known him for 15 years. You better beware of Bill. Any human being who has not found himself is evil. And the only reason Bill hasn't hurt you yet is because he still wants something from you. Or he hasn't had the opportunity, or he has a phony self-image of being good. If you're so dumb that you're going to fall into the trap of good old Bill and Martha, then it's your own fault for not listening to what you've heard here and applying and increasing your valuation of what you learn here, as we had a couple weeks ago. Increasing your valuation of what you hear in this room. What you hear in this room is the only thing you're going to take with you after death. What you hear in this room is the only thing you're going to take with you when you leave this physical body, which will happen tomorrow or years from now, but it will happen. What you gain here, you can take with you if you have it now, because having it now is eternity, right now. See, the intellect that you use to drive your car here, to conduct your business, to talk with your wife or your husband, that kind of ordinary mind can't grasp what we're talking about here. And it's essential that you understand the limitations of your mind, that it can't grasp what we're trying to get at. You can get knowledge here, and that'll take you to a certain distance. But sooner or later, you're going to have to leave the ordinary mind behind so that something higher than that can put the whole together, can see all these ideas at once. So that's an encouraging thing to say to you, that if you're not sure of what's going on, which you are not, then stick with it. What more can I tell you? Stick with it. Not for my sake. I've got what I want. You haven't a thing to give me. I've got what I want for your sake. Your sake.
You said that a higher mind could see all these things at once. Could you go into that?
No, just leave it at that, Chuck, please. Phyllis.
Then to continue Frank's reasoning further, according to what you've just said, that as the consciousness grows, as we become more awake, then we receive inner guidance.
Well, fine. Well said. Sure. That is the same as walking alone. Then you can walk with or without other people. Now you're compelled to walk with other people. You want their opinions, their support, which is no support at all, except the support of delusion. You can then walk with other people because you're not infected by their delusion. Thing.
In that same area, that's what I suffer mostly of throughout the day, is that I have to walk with others. I have no strength to walk on my own. When I pass by people, the way I look at them, that they demand that I reinsure them.
That they what?
Their facial expression then demands from me that I reinsure them by a friendly word, by a smile, which I actually don't want to give, because it leads to more. But I cannot break loose from it. Not yet.
Yes. You know, don't you, out where you work, for example, that people are just scared, looking for the smallest crumb of comfort, the smallest smile. All right, now back out of where she works and get here. Can't you see in yourself how you just die to have people tell you that you're okay? And can't you see that there's no end to it? So they tell you that you're okay at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're hungry again at 9. You want someone to tell you that you're okay, that you're all right. Let me use a word deliberately. When God tells you that you're all right and you're able to hear it, that is the end of it.
Amen.
We have 2 or 3 more minutes.
You gave us some help by asking us to value what we find here more. And it seemed to come at a very timely time, to put it in one way. And I personally started going over everything that we've learned with renewed intensity, and it was a terrific new experience, because something beyond the words said, welcome back, to put it in one way.
Okay, all right. Valuation increases through disevaluation of all you have relied upon in the past. And that comes by seeing what your former false values have been doing to you and are doing to you. Real valuation comes by ceasing to value what you valued in the past. And that comes by seeing the punishment you have had at the hands of what you value. You value taking someone else's word for what's going to be the right thing for you to do with your life. You're going to take their word for it. They're going to wreck your life. And you begin to see that your friends lead you out. They lead you out into the wilderness, promising that the magician is going to come, and you turn around and they're gone. You've paid them for leading you out into the wilderness. What could be more stupid than that? You have paid them your money, your life, for leading you out into the wilderness where they promised the magician would come. And you look around and they have disappeared to get the next sucker. Can you begin to see what is happening to you by listening to charlatans, both inside and outside you? Only that, seeing of that, can increase your valuation of the truth, because you're beginning to lose trust. Get this, you're beginning to lose confidence in falsehood. And isn't that a marvelous thing to do? Beginning to lose confidence in falsehood. How marvelous. Just sit quietly for a minute, please. It is a good, proper statement for a beginner, which we all are, to make, to detect something that is trying to lead you out into the wilderness where it's going to abandon you. Simply to say, no, I'm not going along with you. I'm not going to be deceived by you anymore. I'm not going to follow you out there. I'm not going to believe in you anymore. I'm not going to trust you anymore. I'm going to see what new experience I can have inwardly by not going along with you. I'm going to go through the experience of seeing what happens when I'm left all alone by you when you leave me. Or I leave you, so that we're separated in any case, so that I'm not going to have this so-called comfort or security of following false ideas around anymore. I'm going to find out what happens to me if I cease to follow them. Because I know that following them has always left me out in the wilderness where I'm scared. So what bad thing can happen to me if I don't follow you? I'm going to find out if there is a genuinely new experience for me by saying, no, I'm not going to listen to you as you try to entice me out there. I'm going to stay right here just to see what happens to me. You'll grow increasingly scared at the start. And when the fear reaches its peak, it will start to descend and go away. And you'll know then that the wisest course of your life was to stay right where you are and not follow your vagrant thoughts, your deceptive thoughts, your malicious thoughts, your deceptive thoughts, but to stay there and watch them in action without obeying them, without doing what they say you must do, but consciously defying them and say, no, I'm staying home. Then the miracle happens. And you will know it's a miracle. The miracle of you or me having this profound, deep self-transformation of ourselves. Not words, not something we go around talking about all the time, but something that we know because we're living it. There's no doubt about it because there's no thoughts about it. There's only the state, the being. Good night.